All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another coffee and cigars live stream, the Thursday night hang. How's it going? I'm Jay, your host, and we're always with this. Thanks for coming out. Always good to see you. How's it going? What's happening here? We got another week of cigars and coffee, and I am just finally getting settled in here. Thank goodness it's not so hot. It's kind of warm. When we get to 50 today, I think like the 50. So I'm here. I got the blast doors are all open out there, so that's kind of nice. And so it's not terribly cold. What's up, Mom? How are you doing today? Good to see you. Good to see you. We're here, and so don't forget, we're all set now for February 14th. Mom and Rusty have both messaged me. They already got their hotels. They're going to be coming down. Devin, how are you doing, man? Good to see you. If you can make it up here to Bethesda, Maryland on Sunday, February 16th. We're going to be having a get together at Capital Cigar, officially starting at 2 p.m., but who knows? Probably do something beforehand. And so, George is going to be have everything set up for us. We're going to have probably some prizes or giveaways at least at something, cigars, cigars to buy, and we'll probably have a cigar or two for you. So if you can make it, come and join us. We'd love to have all of you. What's going on, Rusty? And George is with us. What's going on with George? George, I imagine that you're outside with shorts on today because it's pretty warm. I was thinking about taking off my going just out with a sweatshirt. It was so warm today. I mean, really, it's 40 something. Not terribly warm, but warm. But compared to like 6 degrees, definitely very nice now. Very nice. All right. So what do we got going on here? We're going to be doing a cigar. One of the cigars that Mom sent. This is called the Catch a Fire by a company called Blue Mountain Cigars. So we're going to be trying this out today, see how it turns out. So good to see everyone. But first, we're going to have some coffee. So today I did the live stream from while doing some roasting. Oh, this is so hot now. Turn this down. I got the heater running. Turn it down a little bit. And I was trying something a little bit different. We're using the Kalita Cafe Tall, which is this little travel brewer. It's a little wedge shape, has a little bit of a notch. So when you place it on top of your mug, right? Place on top of your mug, there's a little hole that you can kind of see down into the mug as you're brewing, right? So in case but the thing is, it only has this little bit of side lateral tabs, but if you go forward or back, well, it does stick below. So it does it won't necessarily fall off, but it's not necessarily the most stable. But we're going to use this. A friend of mine, Raymond So, who's a distributor in Manila, gave this to me quite a few years ago. He's like, hey, man, you should have this. Rusty says we're scheduled for icy rain tonight. Oh, man. So the school at 4:30 this afternoon already called it. Wow, really? Oh, that's terrible. I'm sorry to hear that. Here in Baltimore, it's not terrible. Not terrible weather going on. Tony, so that's what's going on, Tony. How are you, man? Everything's good. So we got this brewer, and we're going to have this filter. This is the filters for them, 101 filters, little small 1 cup filters, but we need the coffee. And I got some coffee here. This coffee here is from Nicaragua. This is what we call the Perla Negra. It is a coffee that's produced for me by the Mirish family in Matagalpa using a anaerobic process method of processing the coffee. Basically, they put the coffee after they pulp it, put in the rubber bladders and let it ferment in low oxygen environment. I don't really know why they say anaerobic. Anaerobic, I know they call it's a marketing thing, but when people talk about anaerobic stuff, to me, I always think it should be like a non-oxygen environment, where these are just more like very, very reduced oxygen environments, right? Because you're not really sucking it out. And there may be some displacement by the CO2 of the fermentation, but I don't know how sealed it is. But anyway, so this got some really nice. This is what we use for cold brew, and this has a very good, sweet, creamy character to the coffee. You can see a little bit of a roast on it. And it's a really lovely, lovely coffee. They've been producing this for us for like 10 years. So we're just going to make this, and we're going to use a hand grinder because we're going to grind it fresh. I was using it earlier for a couple of roasts, but it's all so. I think I need to make it coarser. I think that'll do it. So this is the Porlex. The Porlex uses, it's a hand grinder that is conical, what is it called? Conical board grinder. But you can kind of see the conical burrs. Ooh, ooh, right there. Right. Nice grinder. It's nice. It's one of the first grinders, first hand grinders I ever bought. Really simple. This actually fits inside an AeroPress. If you want to travel with it, you just kind of take an AeroPress and do that. Hand grinder, did hell freeze over? Yeah, you probably did. Probably did. Last week it did. George says looking forward to the 16th. Devin says checking flights, but I can't. Oh, we'd love to have you, man. We'd love to have you. The guys are staying. I think Rusty said he's going to stay at the Hyatt Bethesda, and Mom is at the Marriott Bethesda. So Bethesda, Maryland, and yeah, come join us. Be great to have you. So basically, I'm just going to take the coffee and I'm just going to make a mess and pour it into the Porlex. I don't really know how much coffee I'm putting in here. I'm just going to put coffee in, right? Just going to fill it with coffee and just kind of let it do its thing. I'm going to presume it's going to give us the right amount of coffee by filling it up there. Okay, so that's good. That's good. Put this to the side before I break it. This goes on top as thus. Then we get the handle. And then it's just a matter of twisting. Devin says, hand grinder and hand scale. Your hand scale all the way, my friend, all the way. We're not going to worry too much about being too precise. We're just going to go with it. Tomorrow for the live stream, we're going to be looking at the new Odyssey Argos from Odyssey Espresso. This is a machine that has been wanting to come to market for the last couple of years. 4 hours, maybe 18 minutes. I know this. I don't know if you saw that live stream that I did with the Zassin house where it was all like set up for super fine grinding, and it was like took us a long time, like 20 minutes to grind. This one I coursed it up, so I think it's going pretty fast. I think I'm almost done. Oh, maybe not. How far do we go? Let's see. Oh, we're only about halfway there. But smell is nice. The aromatics, the fragrance is very nice on it. I don't know why people like to do this. I don't find this terribly enjoyable. Okay. Oh, almost done. Now we're done. Because once it starts to flow really easily, then you know you're done. Okay, so we've got the coffee ground. Fairly, oh yeah, that's good medium grind. Now we're going to take our cup here. Cup, Kalita, cup. Rusty says pretty soon you're going to compete in the Commandant. That would be something. That would be something. Okay, now we got, like I said, we got Kalita number 101 filters. These are the small filters. Let's take that little teeny tiny filters. I'm going to fold it over. Let's put that in here. And now we're going to take our coffee and put that in. It's going to fill it up nice like that. All right, good. And what else are we going to do here? Oh, so what I have today is, instead of boiling water like we do, I just kind of took a thermos and I boiled some water earlier, about an hour ago or less than an hour ago, and put it in here. And this nice thing about this old school Stanley is that it has this spout, right? This spout actually has a nice pour control on it. So if I just open it a little bit, I can actually pour a nice stream for the thing. George says, okay, let's not spill the water. I know. Like last time, I'm doing this because I'm scared from last time. Speaking of competitions, I'm having a brain fart. What happened with SIGs? Oh, I ended up not going. I was like, I got so much else going on that I had to take care of that weekend. I just didn't. I called them up. I said, hey, I can't make it. I got stuff with family that I need to take care of. And my friend's the one that runs it. And so she was like, yeah, no worries. It's like, okay, cool. Thanks. Ooh, nice nose. Nice, nice nose. Tony says he's having the Espinosa Habano 6x48 and a Diet Cherry Pepsi. Excellent, excellent. So we're rolling here with the brew. Got a nice little bit of bloom. Now we're just going to continue to pour. This is definitely a lot better than this morning's pouring. This morning I was, having a very, very fine grind, so it was very slow and stalling and just not so great. But now it looks like it's going pretty well. Well, as you can see, I'm kind of pouring differently because it's kind of a rectangle, so I got to make sure I go around the horn here and make sure that it does its thing. Tony says it's 2 years old, so nicely aged. Excellent, excellent. Glad to hear that. I'm going to turn the heat back on because it's kind of cold. These old school Stanleys actually work very well for holding the heat. Like, look at this. It's really nice. Rusty says, Tony, I got to have a Diet Cherry Pepsi with you at Capitol. Excellent. Yeah, bring some down. Bring some down. They don't have Pepsi they have Coca-Cola products at Capitol. So if you want Pepsi, you got to bring that with you. But yeah, December 16th. So the nice thing is that it's President's Day, right? President's Day is on Monday. So you can have at least the opportunity to go home, on Monday. And speaking of DC and traveling, man, I'm sure you guys have seen the news about the crash last night, where the looks like the Black Hawk, the Army Black Hawk helicopter had an incursion into the flight path of the CRJ 200, which is just a horrible, horrible thing. And actually, kind of it affects me a little bit personally more than other things because I do travel a lot, and so the idea of crashing is a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. One that you kind of worry about once in a while. Rusty says, "What can we bring with us into Capitol? For example, yes, you can bring a bottle of bourbon. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. That is allowed. People do bring their own beverages. People bring their own. So people bring in food because they gotta have lunch or whatever. So I don't think there's any restrictions. I'm sure George, when he comes and checks it out, he'll let us know if I'm incorrect in saying that. But I do believe that there is no restrictions on that. Okay, let me put this to the side here. And now we have our coffee. The coffee's all ready to go. Right? Here it is. So this is a coffee we have that's made for us that we do cold brew it, but I'm making it hot because you can really use them in a variety. Most any coffee will work in a variety of scenarios. Nice, sort of creamy, milky, sweet, good body. Oh yeah, I like that. That's actually nice. All right, so I'm going to put the cap on here so we can preserve the heat. This Festool mug is not very good in the cold, cold weather. So something to go along with this, right? I got something that before we begin. It's 8:15. Yesterday I had an outing with my nieces for her birthday, and her sister, and then their mom, my cousin, and our other cousin came out. And I thought we're just gonna do like a lunch or something, and then they were like, we want to go to the Duchess, which is a new restaurant down in Hamden, owned by the Foreman Group. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, let's go there. But then turns out they're only open at 5 o'clock for dinner. They don't open for lunch, which is typical for the Foreman Wolf restaurants. I should have really realized that early on. But we went, they called, so they're like, oh, we're just going to go and then we'll just go there later. Let's go out to eat first. And I was like, I guess I'm not going to be doing other things that I was planning today, so that's fine. Because I thought I'd be done by 3, and then I would have all this time to do in the afternoon, evening to finish work I needed to do. But I was like, okay, well, whatever. So we ended up having an epic odyssey of food of Baltimore. So we went first to Frank's Pizza in Overley. And if you've been watching Dave Portnoy, the Barstool Sports guy, he came to Baltimore last month and went to Frank's. And you always wonder, like, what was someone like Dave Portnoy, these critic guys, what will they say about your favorite pizza joints, right? And he went to a few of the ones that I like. He went to to Frank's. He went to Matthew's. He went to some of the really great pizza joints of Baltimore. He went to a few that I've never heard of, but Frank's is one that we like to go to. And he loved it. He loved Frank's, gave it high marks, and I went there yesterday. And it's so busy now. Like, it is so crazy. It's so crazy. It's out of control there. It's out of control. Like, they ran out of like Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi. They're Pepsi House, right? So ran out of Diet Pepsi, ran out of Mountain Dew. And I was like, my God, man, what is going on here? And the line was just crazy. Like, we were able to get a table, but man, you really got to plan it out now. It's like, so we went there, had their cup pizzas, really great. And but he says, you were back on track at 14 and coffee was made. And now we're going to go right off the rails, my friend, right off the rails. So after that, I was like, oh, I'm going to take them down down the road a little bit to Woodley Bakery, which is this old German bakery, 80 years old. This bakery's been around, started by a German family, still run by the same family, descendants of it. And they have these crazy things. And those of you who saw this morning's live stream will know what I'm going to pull out here. But this is the remnants of that. This is like almost a half a donut left for $4. So if you guys are familiar with burger cookies, those of you who are from Baltimore will be. It's kind of got the fudginess from the burger. But look at this thing. This thing is like $4 for this. I mean, their prices, and it's really good. Like, it's got that nice rise for a raised donut. And, so I thought we'd get this and have a bite of it just to share with you on this. If you ever get out there, Woodley Bakery on Bel Air Road, all the way down in the city. Huh? Uh-huh. As someone said this morning on the live stream, this is America. When Donald Trump said he wanted to make America great again, he did not realize that this was the path. Okay, I'm not going to eat the whole thing because that would be ridiculous. This already is like 3 donuts right here. But it is so good with coffee. God, it's so good with coffee. I should just make a live stream called The Coffee and Donuts Show, where we just eat donuts and drink coffee. But we'll put it down. We'll put it down. Yeah. Get that out of here because, man, Tony says that bite was savage. I just want to house that thing. It's got that old school raised donut texture. I just love that. I just love that, man. It's too wonderful. The only problem is that it's really far down Bel Air Road in the city, so it's way out of the way. Like, I never go there. It's like the last time I went there was like February. I'm just gotta clean out the palate from that delicious chocolatey goodness. All right, so let's have a look. Today's cigar is a cigar that one of the ones that Mom sent. So I thought, oh, let's go back into the catalog here. This is a cigar called the Catch a Fire by a company called Blue Mountain. And Blue Mountain Catch a Fire. Trying to find more about it. There's not too much about it, but Blue Mountain is a cigar company. Where are they? So here it is. So what does it say? Blue Mountain Cigars is a family-owned and operated business dedicated to This is from their website, so it's going to be a lot of superlatives. Dedicated to uncompromising quality and customer satisfaction. In April 1995, cigar connoisseur and entrepreneur Marvin Wright started a cigar factory with his wife Jacqueline. Born and raised in Jamaica, Marvin was the son of an entrepreneur who grew tobacco. After completing his studies, Marvin moved to Cuba, where he developed his own passion and appreciation for premium cigars, ultimately bringing him to Nicaragua. Today in Nicaragua, Marvin utilizes many of the old Jamaican traditions in cigar making, combined with many of the techniques and philosophies he learned from growers and master blenders in Cuba. Oh, nice. So maybe this is, I don't know if this is there's premium bundles, premium boxes. Um, he's got a lot of, if you go to their website, it's at bluemountainCigars.com. There's quite a lot of cigars here. I'm just looking here for the, we even makes a football cigar. That's cool. Naked bundle, premium boxes, premium boxes. Yeah, Tony says the wrapper looks nice. Yeah, the wrapper so far in the wrapper in the cello looks pretty good. I'm just trying to find the details on the cigar from their website, but doesn't look like, or maybe I'm just looking in the wrong spots. That's probably it too. I hope it's not the dipped. I'm looking at the dip now. I hope it's not the dipped. Oh, they have cigars dipped in Moscato wine. That actually sounds kind of nice. George says he's having the Trinidad Espiritu is the first cigar on the deck for the evening. It's very good, especially when you are not suffering from oh man, like definitely hypothermia was part of the whole experience last week. I don't know how you do it, my friend. I don't know how you do it. I'm always impressed. I can't find anything about this cigar on their website. So there is something from the Humidor Cigar Lounge, which is not the one that's here in Baltimore. From their website, they have a description. Introducing the Blue Mountain Catch a Fire, a fiery blend of bold flavors and rich aromas that will ignite your taste buds. This premium coffee is sourced on the Blue Mountains. Oh, I guess this is a coffee. Oh, never mind. Blue Mountain Catch a Fire. Okay, let's try this. Let's try another one. I got something here. There's a Facebook page. Let's see. Oh, there's really nothing too much. Goodness. Oh, Blue Mountain Cigars. Okay, let's see here. Let's see. I'm going to Blue Mountain's Facebook page, see if what they have here. The Golfer. Mom, what's the deal with the Catch a Fire? Is there a search on this page? Can I search this? All right, let's see. Oh, here. We got a video. There's a video. Oh, I guess this is the owner.
We manufacture cigars in Nicaragua. We're out of Miami, Florida. What's new is our Catch a Fire.
Catch a Fire.
100% Nicaraguan wrapper filler from Esteli, Condega, and it's a mild medium full body. Then we also have what is new with us is the Beast.
Okay. Mild to medium full body with tobaccos from Esteli and Condega. Condega's to the north of Esteli. So we're gonna try that, but now we're gonna try. Now we know. Now we know. So now we can go. Oh my gosh, man, this is kind of burning me. Tony says that the animal is dedicated to the. He totally is. Totally is. Dedicated or complete idiot depends on your perspective. I think the complete idiot's only really in question last week. Like I was like, man, that's some brutal. It was brutal. It was brutal last week. Last week was so brutal, so brutal. Like man, even in here was brutal. I was like, gosh. I don't know what I'm doing out here. That was crazy. Okay, so let's look at our cigar. Whoa, let's take it out. Oh, there's a little bit of a, what do you call this? A pigtail on that? Oh, that's nice. Now this has been in the humidor, so it's been in the coffee and cigars humidor in the big that's been in the big humidor, but that's really, it doesn't matter because it's just in one. But as you can see, very light wrapper, looks very like Connecticut style wrapper, but evidently it's all Nicaraguan tobacco. But very clean, very nice wrapper. Look at that. That is quite pretty. Catch a fire. Tony says our friend has a smoking event called the Iron Man, which will be well ready. Are we still having that next week? 2 weeks from now? So the Iron Man is just usually this whole thing where it's supposed to happen. Like our friend started this when he was living in Connecticut, where it's a lot colder than here in Maryland, and so the idea is that for on Super Bowl morning we get together and go outside to a place, to a bar, and smoke cigars in the cold. Really, there's only been 1 week, 1 year that was actually cold. The rest were kind of like, Maryland mild. Everything was all like, so. Sorry, not Armor, but Tough Guy. Yeah, the Tough Guy challenge. So here it is. There's a little pigtail. Oh, a little bit, a little bit of light spice, but a spicy fragrance that is different than what we normally get, but it's a rather pleasant smelling. Mom says, I don't think it's made by Blue Mountain. Oh, no? That's not the guy? Steven's with us. What's going on, man? How are you doing? Good to see you. How are things in Phoenix? All right, let's cut this cap off. There it is. The cap has been cut. Look at that. Look at that nice darker tobacco on the inside. That looks nice. Ooh. Okay, very light on the wrapper. The fragrance is kind of nice. Let's try the cold draw. As I'm cold drawing across my tongue, I get this cognac kind of sensation, almost like it was flavored or sweetened. But it doesn't taste like it's sweet or flavored. But it almost. Mom says, I went to find the box. It says just catch a fire. Is there another catch a fire cigar? I mean, that one video that I just looked at from Blue Mountain, from Blue Mountain's Facebook page. I mean, it does. I thought it did have. It looked like it had the. Let me rewind this thing. Can we rewind this? But I thought it looked like it had the bands of this cigar on it. So, but anyway, whatever the case may be, we're gonna try it and we're gonna see how we like it. So a little bit of cognaciness. There's a little bit of spicy on the saliva. There's a little bit of spiciness now. That's kind of like here. Oh, Mom says it is a Connecticut. Okay. Oh, that makes sense. I mean, it looks super like Connecticut. Like I didn't think that there was anything like this in Nicaragua. Okay, here we go. Look at that. All right, first puff. Nice draw. Nice smoke production. The cold draw has this interesting, I'm going to say it's 875 for the fragrance and cold draw. Steven says Phoenix is 61 degrees. Just beautiful, smoking outside. Enjoy. Oh man, lovely. What are you smoking tonight, there, Steven? What are you smoking? Mom says the wife brought it. My wife brought it back from Jamaica for me. Oh, when I started smoking cigars in the mid '90s, the Royal Jamaican was still a very popular cigar, and I had quite a few of them over the back then. But I haven't had Royal Jamaican or any kind of Jamaican cigar that I'm aware of since that time. I thought I do remember you saying that these were maybe made in Jamaica, but it's interesting. Like this is a very like classic kind of flavor in that respect. Very like he said it was kind of strong, but I think it's a very mild, but really classic. Like it's a classic kind of flavor experience. Like maybe how that those old Royal Jamaicans were back in the 90s. Tony says, I miss those Royal Jamaica Park Lades. I mean, this could be like that. Like it's not you know how like modern cigars, Nicaraguan cigars are very demanding. They're demanding. They pepper, spice. They want you to they want to grab your attention. This is just like, it's starting off very classic, very refined, very smooth, very nicely blended. In some ways, like a classic Monte Cristo #2 or the brown label Tatuaje, but without that bite, without that heaviness, without the strength. It's just more of that old school classicness. Like maybe like the old school Joyo de Monterrey's from the 90s. It's very this kind of gives me that thought. Oh, and mom says it says product of Jamaica. Oh man. I mean, if this is different than the one we saw there, and this is actually made in Jamaica, this is like right now, I feel like this is like classic Jamaican, like cigar making. Like this is wow. It's like an old school, like a mother. Sharon says, smoking in Asian room, Nicaragua. Nice. Mm. This brings me back to the days when I first started smoking cigars in the 90s. This is kind of how cigars were back then. Pleiades, the Royal Jamaicas, maybe even some of those Macanudos. Well, Macanudos were lighter than this. This is more complex than the Macanudos were, I think. A little more heaviness. But this is. George says Royal Jamaica was before I started smoking cigars. Did they come in multiple wrap? I don't recall. I don't think so. I think back then, if I remember correctly, like this idea of like, so from what I remember, the big wrappers were there was the Connecticut, there was some kind of Maduro, there was the the green ones, the Colorado Claros, right? Or what's the green one called? Anyway, but there's the green ones every blue moon. Like the only one that did green cigars was Fuente. Fuente for the 85 was it 858 would do like one release a year of green cigars, and I always liked those because they were like the Fuente wrap blend, but with this green wrapper that was kind of the green wrapper always to me kind of had this saltiness to it. I was always like I always kind of liked that. Candela, thank you, Tony, thank you. This is more like the Colorado Claro. Right? Like the idea of like Pennsylvania broadleaf, all these broadleafs, not even a thing. The idea of a Brazil out of Paraca, like that was only in Brazil. Like I didn't hear about that till many, many years later. This, wow, this really is classic. This is like we talked about cigars with other cigars where it's like it starts out with fanfare and all this kind of fireworks, and this is not that. This is very different. This is just smoothness, a nice blend, not terribly, and it's not a blend that's like wants to identify all its components. It's just a blend that wants to be. It's a blend that wants to be a cohesive whole. Like at the moment, I feel quite enthusiastic about this one. This is nice. This is nice. This is surprisingly nice. Hey, here's a question for you, Bud, and you guys that know more about construction. When you're working with OSB plywood, is the OSB coated already, or do you have to paint it? Can I leave it unfinished, or without me putting a different finish on it? Rusty says that light color wrapper looks on my end of old school Don Diego and Garcia Vega cigars a friend's dad used to smoke. I mean, this is very much like the cigars we used to smoke back in the days, back in the old days, like in the 90s. This is really when I started in cigars. This is kind of like the ideal cigar. This is like beautiful. It's beautiful, man. There's something beautiful about it. I'm surprised. Devin says, I like those singular flavor of blend when I'm doing something like golfing. Yeah, totally. But and I wonder, like, if we were in like 1996, at this moment, we went back to 1996 and we're smoking cigars, and I smoked this, would I be as enthusiastic about it? It would be a good cigar, right? But it might also be quite, if we were in 1996, this might also be like a lot of other cigars that are out on the market at that time. But in 2025, there's not much like this on the market. At least not much cigar, not many, very few cigars that are like this that people celebrate. Like this is, man, it just got classic, just classic. Very, very, very surprised. Now I'm getting a little bit of unevenness, probably because I'm pulling on it too hard. So I'm going to slow down, take it a little bit easy. I'm feeling a little bit excited for it. Put that down for a moment. Fix my hair. But one thing about this little cap is that it's a little bit small. I should go to my other one, my fluffy one. Oh my gosh. That's a little more comfortable. Yeah, that's a little bit better. But right now it's a little bit cold. Yeah, like I was saying, that plane crash. So evidently, from what I've heard today, the army helicopter. So I heard this one story. This guy was talking about that the flight control. So the army helicopters, as they're crossing through the flight pattern, are also under the guidance of air traffic control. I didn't realize that. I figured under a certain altitude or within a certain corridor, they were free to do whatever they wanted. But even though they're at 400 feet, the guys were basically crossing the flight path. And there's a certain command, and I don't remember what the command was, where they're supposed to, the flight controller is telling them, okay, there's this CRJ to like I don't know, to your 10 o'clock coming in. And the guys took visual responsibility for it. So there's some kind of terminology that the pilots will use to say that I have visual contact. I will, because the flight controls will tell them to go behind the CRJ. And the pilot of the helicopter was confirming that he was going to go behind the CRJ, and he had visual sight of the CRJ. Evidently, this one pilot was talking about this, who was listening to the tapes. He was like, this is probably what happened. He had visual confirmation of the CRJ, but he was not in visual confirmation of the American Airlines CRJ, but rather the aircraft that was 3 miles behind it in the pattern. So while he's fixated on this aircraft, which I don't know, I guess he's fixated on this aircraft, so I guess he's piloting the helicopter to go behind this, but I guess he put it in the flight path of the aircraft that he was supposed to identify, that he had not been able to identify. And I can only imagine he's flying along at 400, whatever, 125 knots or whatever, Here comes this aircraft coming down at 130, 440 knots. I mean, by the time you realize, it's just too late. It's just too late. It's terrible. Brian's with us. What's going on, Brian? How are you, man? Good to see you. But he says if the OSB is left outside and it's not painted, it will soak up water and rot and fall apart. Okay, so I got a piece of OSB. One side is painted, the other side is not. It just has whatever glazing that it has. So I will paint that other side. George says you are resetting your palate, smoking something milder than normal, and it strikes something you haven't. That's true. That's so true. Steven says, hey, bro, there you are. There you are. There you go. So, this whole thing with plane crashes is very like, I mean, I was thinking about it last night when I first heard about it, and I was like, hey, I fly a lot, right? I've flown well over 1,000,000 miles in my lifetime. And there's always a part of you wonders, like, what could happen? But you're coming home. You're coming home. Everything has gone well on your trip, right? You're coming in for a landing. You're at 400 feet. Whatever flight you've been through, it's now at the very end, and you're like, you can see the highway, you can see all the people, the lights, everything. You're like, all right, good, it's time. I get my cell phone out and get it ready, and I'm gonna get my stuff together. I think about that, and I think, oh, and then suddenly explosion. Like I'm just like, holy God, man, holy God. Like, and you think like you kind of think like, okay, you get hit and then you'll find a way to glide down. But man, these guys were coming down. They're coming down as this helicopter and Black Hawk. So CRJ 200s are not that big, right? There's like one seat. It's like two, right? So here's a CRJ coming at 140 knots on a downward slope. The pilots are all busy because they're landing and there's all kinds of stuff they got to do. These guys that are crossing, the military guys are coming across and they finally realize, oh, we're screwed. I wonder if the pilots on the CRJ even noticed them at some point, or what point did they notice? And then you collide. And it's not like, I guess it's not like a collision, like you just glanced off of them and like were able to feather the plane out. I mean, it just probably clammed into each other, explosion, crumpled. The plane is just like torn apart and flipped upside down. It just kind of falls the other like 300 some feet. I mean, man, I was thinking like maybe hopefully someone survived, but even if you could survive that, you're in the middle of the Potomac, 35-degree water. How do you survive that? I mean, you think about the miracle on the Hudson, right? But when the when the Airbus, the U.S. Airways Airbus crash landed in the Hudson River, but they was able to feather it down and land it, right? So they could calmly evacuate the plane and stand on the wings. But if they actually were in the water, holy, I mean, how many people survived that died in the plane, drowned? Fuck. So it's so very like horrific. It's horrific. I mean, I've flown on a lot of CRJs. They're really small. Like, man, if you're in a crash situation and you're panicked, you need to get out of the plane. Like that is such a small plane. It's how do you get out of it? Like, all the frequent flyers. They all sit around. They have the safety briefing, and everyone's like, oh yeah, yeah, we know the safety briefing. Grab the handle, pull it out. Chuck it, throw it through the window, or put it to the side and climb out. Do that when the plane is like inverted underwater after you've just been hit by another object. And I mean, you're just cruising along, like I said, you're ready to land. You're all ready to go home to see your family or whatever, and then you hit something like, holy God. All right, so smoking very well. Smoking very well. I'm liking it. It is, like Devin said, it is kind of like very singular so far. Like it's not changing. Like the last couple weeks of cigars, we've had cigars that started out with a lot of fanfare. You know, the opening medley was really strong, and then it moved into a different movement, slowed down a little bit. This one's not like that. It's just kind of like bum, ba, bum, ba, bum, ba, bum, ba, and just continuing on, right? Just continuing. So my wood projects here have continued. And that's why the reason I'm asking for the OSB is because I'm working on this cart right here. And you can see this blue right here. That's the OSB. There's one panel of that OSB. And this side you can see here is painted. I harvested this from somewhere, and I cut it down. And then on the other side is unfinished. So I need to paint that tomorrow. But this is actually this whole thing is a cart for this big mother planer, right? There's this big planer right here. It's super. It's like this planer weighs like 95 pounds. It's ridiculous. And I needed something that I could contain the sawdust, because this thing has a blower. Unlike most equipment, this has its own blower that ejects the sawdust, and ejects it with a extreme ferocity. That if I can't connect it to anything else, because it just kind of blows it everywhere, because it's a positive feed blower, right? So it's blowing out, right? Where all of the machines are designed to be sucked out, right? So it's being suctioned out. So all of the connections, all of the separators are all designed to be suctioned down, right? So it goes all one way, and everything that there may be gaps closes down, where this thing blows out with ferocity, which means that if there's any kind of like container that's slightly gapped because they're designed for vacuum use, it just blows them apart and blows like all kinds of. It is a great planer. Don't get me wrong, but it is ridiculous. Like it is like, oh my gosh, it creates a whole nother world of issues that you have to solve. And then I went out to a sawmill, found this guy, Frank Thomas Sawmill, out in Falston. Went out there and we just get some wood. So I went out there, and I've got a joiner, right? These joiners that you can take rough sawn lumber and you can make it flat surfaced. You know, I got this one. It'll work. I was going to use that for this lumber that I bought, and I was like, okay, let me get that. I was like, and then the guy was like, oh, I can surface it for you. I was like, all right, whatever. So he has this big like 16-inch Delta surfacer, and man, these tools are like amazing. Like it's one of those things where like you do things on your own like a hobbyist, and you got these tools and they're nice, and then you go to the professionals and they got the professional tools and they're just like you're just like, holy god, this is like that joiner was like, I was like, man, it's like it like here I had to do like a 30-second at a time. This thing's like taking like an eighth of an inch at a time, and it's like beautifully surfaced. You're like, wow, that is impressive. And then like there's these planers, right? These are planers that are after you joint it and you get the one surface, you have to make a parallel surface. You use this to make a parallel surface. The one you made, the parallel surface, the flat side you made on the joiner, you put on the base, you face down, so that the top part where it has the blades, cut it all off. Well, their machine is dual surface. Like it'll plane both sides and make it parallel. I was like, wow. It's like, that's amazing. It's like, no matter how undulated or how uneven your surfaces are, it's got, instead of using pressure rollers, these use like these fingers that like conform to the shape, and it just kind of, I was like, man, that is wild. So what would have taken me an hour or so to do took like 10 minutes. And I was like, wow, that's pretty wild. All right, so our cigar is going well, and I think we're pretty much through the. I'm going to say we're pretty much through the first third. I think it's very good, right? Yeah, very good. It's a very good cigar. So I'm going to say it's 8.75 for flavor, Really nice blend. Not a wild complexity like we have the Nicaraguan cigars. We think about like all this crazy complexity, but just a smooth complexity. And the body, the body, kind of more medium body, but really nice. I'm gonna say 8.5 for the medium body. So 16. Right, there we go. So how's your guys' cigars doing? Doing well? Good, bad, ugly? One thing I'm finding is that it's warm enough that it's too hot to run the heater the entirety of the time. So I got to turn it off, cool down, turn it back on, heat it up. But so far, smoke production, nice. The puffing is nice. Everything. Construction has been really great. It's beautiful. I'll knock that little out there. But yeah, I'm really liking this one, Mom. I'm liking it a lot. Thank you. I would have smoked more, but I haven't smoked at all this week. Actually, I went up to a friend's house on Saturday. Whole bunch of guys got together. I haven't seen these guys. The guys from my high school class. We haven't got together in a while. So they were like, let's all get together. I was like, all right. And our buddy, he's got a smoking room. He smokes like 6 cigars a day. It's actually, I didn't realize he's like insane. But he's got his smoking room and he's got his office in his smoking room. So it's got it pretty well set up, right? And so we're down there having some AJ New Worlds. And I had one of the Invictus from the that stuff that Bud likes to smoke from Cigars International. Good stuff. Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks. Mom says I used to smoke them. I would totally see this. Like, I think it'd be nice to have this in a Corona size. Like, if I was in a world where I actually did this, and I never do this, but I always think it'd be kind of fun. Like if I lived in a place in the world where I could like, I felt like I would want to do this. Like I don't really feel it, but like to sit outside, coffee, a Corona of this, that would be very pleasant. But I tend not to smoke cigars in the morning. Any other time of day, usually, but I'm not okay with that. But not usually in the morning. And a lot of times for me, it's always at night, right? And I know I said this before, but what I really enjoy is like when I go to Asia. It's like if I'm in Manila or Bangkok, my friends there they don't go smoking until like 10 o'clock at night and later, which I really find enjoyable because you can do everything that you want to do that day. Work, go out, hang out, go to dinner, right? And then it's 10:30 and you're like, okay, let's get together. And we all get together. And then you smoke. And then you can smoke till 1 in the morning. I think it's just it's nice because like, it gives time to smoke where you can like have done everything you want to do beforehand. Yeah, George, 6 a day. I was like, dude, you're crazy. I guess that's partially because he's been working from home since the pandemic, but I was like, man, you smoke 6 a day. I was like, how do you manage that? I was like, well, I mean, he's got a great smoking room. It's really, really quite nice. A nice setup. He's got a nice setup up there. He lives up in Pennsylvania. But it's funny, one of our friends who is now single, he was married, he finally got divorced a while ago, from what they told me. But he's got a new girlfriend. Now we're all the same age, in our 50s, whatever. And but he brought his, and it's kind of funny because I was watching, you're there with everybody, and a lot of guys brought their wives. He brought his new girlfriend. And it's just kind of funny to see them because, like, you see everybody else that has wives, and they're all like just very relaxed, very casual, very much like calm, like normal. They're just hanging out. And you can tell that our friends like they're totally new because they're all over each other. Like they're holding hands, hugging, smooching. It's like, oh, they're early in their relationship. But it's like when you've been with someone for a while, you just don't do those kind of things. You're like, oh, I'll touch you later, baby. I gotta go have a cigar. And he's a cigar guy too. So they were like, "You gonna have a cigar with us?" He's like, "No, no, no, no," because she's not into it. And I was like, "Oh man." I was like, "Man, if you're gonna be our age and you're gonna date a woman and you're a big cigar smoker, you're just gonna have to be like, this is it. Like, what are you gonna like pretend later?" It's like I think that does not help you in the long run. Right, this one girl I was seeing, I was like, she knows I smoke cigars. I'm just not going to be shy about it. I'm like, ah. But if I'm going to bring you to a party with my friends who smoke cigars, I'm going to go have a cigar. Like, you're going to have to like accept that. Like, we're too old to like not, we're too old to make diff changes. Yeah, 6 a day. It's like, at least six. He says 6 to 8. I was like, it's 8. Man, like the most I've ever smoked in one day was 9. And that took from like 11 o'clock in the morning until like 3 in the morning. And I was like, and my palate was shot. I was like, the last cigar or two, I don't even remember if I tasted anything. It was so crazy. I was like, and we were smoking nonstop that day. Like, and that was 10 years ago when I went to the, or 11 years ago now when I went to the cigar safari. Met everyone at the airport in Manoa. Get on the bus at 11. From that moment forward, cigar. It was kind of crazy. I was like, this is crazy. Until we got to the hotel that night and we were like hanging out at the pool, 2:30 in the morning, talking. How many cigars you guys smoked today? I was like, oh man, I smoked 9. Oh man. So we're climbing through this. We're getting close to the band. But as we catch a fire, hey, I wasn't even sure if they made cigars in Jamaica anymore, but this is very much, very like classic, what I would think is classic Royal Jamaican type style cigar. So, Mom, these are your wife got these in Jamaica, so that you can't get these here in the United States. Is that correct? Because it would be kind of interesting to get these like in a Corona shape. Rusty's asking, are we going to have a specific celebratory cigar at Capitol? I haven't quite figured that out yet, but probably. I'm going to say probably yes. And Mom says, right, not here. Oh, that's too bad. That's too bad. these are actually quite enjoyable. But again, I have to say, is it enjoyable because they're enjoyable or just enjoyable because they're so different than what we're used to? Oh, now that I'm pulling this band off, we got a little bit of sticking to the wrapper. So the wrapper is kind of torn now. So a little bit of overshoot with the glue. Even here, it's kind of sticking here, right? Mom says every time she goes back, she brings me down. Is your wife from Jamaica? Is that why she goes, or she just likes to go with her girlfriends to vacation and hide out? Some of the girls I know last weekend went to, or the weekend before, I can't remember which one it is. They would no, the weekend before they went off to Paris for the weekend, which is good. I'm glad they went. I was telling them a couple of years ago, you guys should go to Paris for the weekend. Totally, just jump the flight and go and have a great time. She is from Jamaica. Okay. Now, now that we're kind of getting to the end, I feel like it's building. There's a little bit of building happening now, a little bit more concentration of flavor, maybe just the emergence of a light spice, but also the body feels like it's getting heavier. It's getting heavier. It's getting a little more interesting. So nice. It's very pleasant. It's very pleasant. So I'm going to say we're kind of to the end of the second third. So I think it's been very static or very consistent, should I say? So 875 and 8.5 for the flavor and the body. Okay. So what you guys got going on this weekend? Anything interesting? I'm going to be heading down to Virginia on Saturday. I want to check out this shop down there. They opened a new Japanese market called Marufuji. Want to check that out. And then there's a woodworking shop. They're having like this big celebration for like their Founders Day on Saturday. So I thought I'd go down there because one of my friends from college, she lives in Winchester. So she was like, let's go hang out. Can you come down? I was like, sure, I'll come down. Why not? What else am I going to do on a Saturday? So I'm going to go there and then hang out with her. And gosh, look at the hair. Goodness. We're happy to wear this with kind of hats all day. Okay, better. Brian says product placement. Product placement. It totally is. It totally is. Totally is. I got to try to get sponsorship. Actually, yeah, I would say that there's definitely some progression as far as the flavor. It's a little bit more complex. I wouldn't say that it's heavy or complex or as spicy as other Nicaraguan cigars that we're used to the black pepper. But it's getting more spicy. It's kicking up a notch. Brian says your new bill looks really good, at least on camera. But how many pallets were sacrificed, or are we now using wood from Home Depot or a lumberyard? No, this is actually, so if we look here, these are mostly, they're harvested in some way, right? These 2x4s are harvested from pallets. These cross members are like, I don't know what dimension they are, but they're also, um, these are also harvested from pallets, just thicker pine. These are all pine. And then these cross members here, I have these cross members. These are also pallets, but this is poplar. And then I have some half-inch ply that I'm using for the bases and some of the verticals. And then the OSB. These are the OSB and the ply came from, I don't know what source it is, but they're basically all used. And then this 3/4 inch ply is also used. And basically, you can see it's kind of like this dirtiness to it because they're kind of weathered. So they're all like, when you it gets weathered, it looks all brownish and like gray. So I just take the sander and sand it down. And then I got this one when I bought when I got this one tool, it came with a cart. The previous owner had made a cart, so he actually used Baltic birch plywood on it. So I took some of that Baltic birch and I used it for this crosscut sled, right? These end pieces. So that's the pretty much the nicest quality plywood that I have. But I'm trying to use it sparingly because I know it's expensive and I don't want to buy any. I don't buy any. Now I need this big piece for the top, right? To set the planer on, right? There's a top here. But I need to I thought the rest of the OSB I thought would be big enough. And I was measuring it today and I was like, oh, it's not big enough. I was like, darn it. Now I don't know what I'm gonna do for the top. But when I went to the lumber mill the other day, I did buy this pine. You can kind of see it there, stacked up those three pieces right there. So that's what I had planed and jointed on Monday. I'm going to use that to build the stand for I'm going to use that to build the base for the bar at the new shop. Why not use harvest? The difficult part with harvested wood is that it does take a lot of work. Like this stuff, like I said, this is all like pallet wood, right? So you can even see here in these poplar, these are the cross members that are the verticals, or the because you can see the holes in them, right? The nail holes. The problem is that you have to get the nails out of them, and they're really, pallets are really a pain in the ass to take apart. And then these are all been resurfaced. So I have to surface everything, right? So this has been all the wood here except for the plies have been resurfaced in some form. So I had to joint them and then plane them down and then cut them to fit. But and then these, like here, I was trying, and what I'm doing is I'm trying to use different techniques to learn more about how to use them. Like, I'm playing around with the half lapping, right? This is what they, I guess, somewhat a half lap. Like, it's not truly a half lap because I'm not using two by fours. I'm just using these together. So you cut out this part and then you inset it here. And then I'm using dominoes to lock them in, and then everything's glued so that there's no screws. Now, these other smaller stuff that I've been putting in today, I was using screws to do them, but I try to do things with as little screws as possible. And one of the problems is, I've got a saw stop table saw, which, what you don't want to do is trigger the brake on it, because the brakes themselves are $100 plus your blade. So if you trigger it destroys your blade and you have to replace everything. So you got to be careful with if you have any metal. Like that's one thing. I was cutting these cross members, the popper ones, and I had to make sure there was no metal in them. Otherwise, I'd like have a big problem. And then all of this will get stained or dyed. Right? You can kind of see it on the slide underneath. Right, there's a slide there. It's kind of yellow and blue. Right. So I've kind of come up with this kind of design philosophy, right, with blue stained wood with natural, and I'm kind of using that. And one of the nice things about the staining part is that you know, as I'm making stuff and I'm screwing it up, the stain hides it. Like if you look at this one, there's this for the shop vac. Like that was the very first thing I made, and it is totally butchered. Like it's butchered. Like it's so bad. And the nice thing is that when if I left it natural, you could totally see that it's how butchered it is. But when you make it blue, dark blue, kind of hides it. It's like, all right, pretty good. But yeah, I've been using mostly harvested wood. Like this cart here, this little service cart that I have here, right? This thing, this is everything here is with pallet wood. And this is all pallet wood, but this all is oak. So the pallet that I ended up finding was an oak one. This was actually one of the first pallets I ever found. But everything is this nice oak. And so I just kind of like built it that way. And then, of course, stained it. And I was trying to do why that other part is yellow. And this is kind of yellow to this 3D printed stuff. But PLA sucks. It's not very structural. But I did make it so that they're cleats. But these, I'm trying to play around with like the idea of, the sunburst patterns that you see on guitars. I thought that was kind of interesting. So it's just kind of, they use dyes to like blend the colors together. Problem with this one is there's just not enough surface material to get, you got a guitar is just big body, where this is just like a 3 inch, 150 millimeter space. Doesn't really give you any working area. But he says, I found a piece of oak tongue and groove about 1.5 by 7 inches for you. I thought I had, oh yeah, I would be very happy to take those off of your hands to help you make space in your storage. Maybe I can use the oak for the top. I need to have, let's see. The top itself, let's see here, the top itself is 700 by 9. I said 900? 700 by 800 millimeters. So that's 30, 24 by 36? No, 2.5 feet by 3 feet deep. I really needed to figure out, this turned out a lot bigger because I needed to put that trash can there to contain the sawdust, because I connected this planer to like a 5-gallon bucket. Man, your 5-gallon bucket does not last any amount of, like, you're just plowing. You just like gotta stop all the time to like refill it. So this is a 32-gallon trash can. But I appreciate that, bud. Thank you. So definitely there's more of a, so we were getting more spicy. It has increased probably a little bit of intensity, but it's not like continue, just kind of increased in intensity. Now it's just kind of hovering there, but very enjoyable. I mean, it's been a very enjoyable cigar this whole time. George says that his Trinidad was great, closing with the Padron 3000 with Johnny Walker Black. Those Padron 3000s, man, or just the Padron 1000 series in general. Such nice, enjoyable smokes, man. Just such a nice, enjoyable smoke. It's been really cold lately. Now, if we have weather like this, what are we, like 40s, 50s degrees weather, I can go back to smoking again, because I haven't smoked at all because it's just been so cold, man. I'm just like, I'll feel like going out. I'll feel like leaving. I'll feel like going to the garage and smoking because there's nothing conducive about the cold. I'm very, very impressed, George, that you're out there smoking away. Like outside of the two cigars I smoked last week, and then the one cigar I smoked the Friday before, the only cigars I've smoked in 2025 have been on this show. That's how little I've smoked so far this year. Tony says I have some pieces of maple hardwood flooring. If you would like to play around with those, that's tongue and groove. Perfect, perfect. I mean, even if I don't like the tongue and groove, I can always slice that off and then join them up together. So, but yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love that. I'd love that. Yeah, I like to play around with these things because with new materials, because it just kind of like to get to see how to make it all work. But I started to focus in on some of the things I'm going to make. Some of our viewers on the main channel have been asking me for like wood things for their espresso baking at home. So I'm working. I've been waiting for a Forstner bit to come in, a 2 3/4 inch Forstner bit, so I could drill some holes into some wood. That has finally come in, so I'm going to pick those up tomorrow. And then I've been, I don't know if you guys know, but I do this bonsai thing too. Like I started going to this bonsai club last summer, so I was thinking, oh, I should make some bonsai stands. And then my friend was telling me that his wife's family has this table. He's been telling me about it for a while. He's like, yeah, it's Naka something, some Japanese dude. And I was like, okay, that sounds cool. And I didn't really understand it, so I was like, okay, that's cool, that's cool. And then some of the guys online were talking about like this technique of like building furniture from this guy named George Nakashima. And finally, I started reading about him, and I was like, oh gosh, this guy was like, he died in 1990, but he was like a new generation of like furniture makers. That's like mid-century modern style, but very like progressive. And I was like, wow, there's some really interesting work. So I was like, been reading about him and looking at his work. That's very interesting to see. And like he does this whole thing where he splits the tops on his tables, kind of like how this sled is split. And I was like, oh, that's a really interesting feature to do on or a real detail. So I've been looking at things like that. And then evidently he's from New Hope, Pennsylvania, which is just a little bit north and outside of Philadelphia. And evidently it's really, people love his work. So I looked up the website and there's a whole, like, you could do visits, but the tours are like sold out. I was like, darn it. But I was able to get a date. I was able to get a tour. There's one spot left on April 11th. So I'm going to go April 11th to go see this workshop and check it out. And then one of the guys at the Woodcraft, he works there. He does his own wood. He works for a furniture making company, but he also does his own work. And he was like telling me there's a place downtown called Open Works on Greenmount Avenue, just south of North Avenue, that has all this crazy facility. So I've been there before, and I've known about it for many years. And I finally went by. We went by there yesterday while we are driving around to check it out. And they've got some really nice facilities, and it's fairly reasonable price to join, or to at least you can pay by the day for access, like $30 a day. So it's like they have like textile labs and computer labs, printing labs. I was like, oh, I could use some of this equipment. Just got to learn, get that certifications on orientation classes, how to make sure that you're up to date on the safety techniques on how to use all the equipment, and then you can use it. And I was like, oh, that seems like a really good deal. But yeah, so far this cigar doing very, very well. Gosh, I feel like we're flying through it now. We're only at 9:20. Huh. I thought we were much later in the evening. So overall, the cigar so far has been relatively static in experience, but interestingly, it's static, or it's consistent, not static, but consistent but not boring. Like sometimes you get these like static or consistent cigars that are very, but they just kind of like you just lose interest. You get a little bit like, just don't know what's going on with them, right? But this one is actually really very enjoyable. Good smoke production. Look at that. Good smoke production. Everything. Construction, flavor, really, so far, very, very good. A little bit cracking right now, but I'm not too worried about it. Like, I'm enjoying it. I'm very much enjoying this cigar, even though it's quite different than pretty much any cigar we normally smoke. Tony says, I think that crack is a result of where your wrapper flaked off. It hasn't unraveled, so I think it hasn't unraveled. I think you're right. I think you're right. That's just remnants of where the wrapper did crack off. But yeah, it's not, yeah, nothing's unraveling. Everything's very, very solid. Like I'm really, really pleasantly surprised. Pleasantly surprised here, Mom. Like I don't want to slow down. Like I'm enjoying it quite a lot. So I just want to continue smoking at a high rate of speed. George says, I love it when you have a crack and it burns perfectly. Well constructed cigar. Yeah, yeah, totally. This is really well done. Well done. Yeah, totally am enjoying it. Totally. Like you know how it is. You just never know sometimes. Even like we've had cigars that we've had that are really great. Really great. So like the one that comes to mind, of course, the biggest example is the Padron. The Padron 1926. A typically fantastic cigar, always consistently fantastic. But the one time that we brought it to this show, it totally like bombed. It's like, oh gosh, what happened here? How did this even happen? So you just never know. You just never know what's going to happen, man. Just so interesting in that respect. But what's happening in the world? Let's see what's happening. Anything besides the what do you call it? The crash, which is just terrible. Just terrible. What else is happening in the world? Evidently, we're going to have tariffs against Canada, China, and Mexico. All of our trading partners. That always sounds like a great idea. Let's put tariffs on our trading partners so that they will drop tariffs on us. And now we as consumers will pay a lot more money. That's always good. Seems like a smart way to go. And evidently, Star Trek, there's a new Star Trek movie with Michelle Yeoh. It's something called Section 31. Evidently, people hate it. I haven't seen it yet myself, but the little blurbs that I've seen, people hate it. I don't know. I have to. I'm gonna have to watch it this week. And then more in my sector, coffee prices have been skyrocketing this past year. Now, evidently, the base price for coffee on the C market is now over $3.60 per pound. Now, just a couple of years ago, we're talking that we were below $1. So now it's tripled in cost in the last year and a half or so, which it has been really actually it's actually been really difficult because like my costs for coffee have nearly tripled. I was just looking at some of our old invoices. It's to the point where like I can no longer absorb the. And here's the thing: so like when it comes to like tariffs and all that, I can no, as a business, we try to absorb some of the fluctuations of the price of coffee, but now it's so far gone that we just couldn't absorb it anymore. We had to increase prices, and we had to increase prices pretty significantly. I haven't done it yet for our retail clients on the website, but that has to come probably next week because now it's like the price we're charging is barely paying for the coffee. Oh, 90s pop icon Marianne Faithfull has passed away in London. And one of the media outlets called Simple Flying, which is a media site that talks a lot about flying, came out with an article that says feeling squashed. The USA's 10 longest regional jet flights. Obviously, this is fueled by the CRJ crash. And the crazy thing is, like, domestic flights kind of suck, right? But one of the worst is like United. Sometimes United is really great, and sometimes it just kind of sucks. So if you ever fly from Maryland to Asia and you go United and you end up going the southern route through the Pacific, which typically flies you to from here to Houston or to LA and then to Honolulu and then to Guam and then onward to Asia. That is the worst way to go because the worst thing is that you fly from Houston to Honolulu, almost 10 hours, 8, 9 hours, domestic. Then you fly from Honolulu to Agana in Guam. And since Guam is a US territory, or a Commonwealth, it is considered a domestic flight, another 7 hours. Like you're now flying longer on a domestic flight from Honolulu to Agana. That is longer than any flight on the contiguous United States. Like if you were to fly from Baltimore to Seattle, it takes 6 hours. This is longer. And it's like, good Lord, man. Those are the worst. Those are the worst. So as much as I was interested in going to see Guam, I just stopped going that way. I was like, I can't go that way. That's craziness. Oh, here's a great thing. From the world of space, there's a newly discovered asteroid that could hit the planet in 2032. Good Lord, 2032. That's like next week. It's a tiny chance, but they say the chance is slightly more than 1%. The director of NASA's Center for Near Earth Object Studies, Paul Rhoda, says that, what is he saying here? He's saying we are not worried at all because of this 99% chance it will miss. Well, you know what? 99% chance is good unless it's that 1%, and then you're just hosed. So I guess the basic message here is smoke them while you got them. God, 1% chance. Good Lord. And then there's another thing that I saw today on YouTube. There's some, evidently there was a half marathon. Was it in Houston? There was a half marathon, I think it was. And this guy, I guess this African dude and this American guy were running. They were at the very end of the race, and evidently people are upset because it looks like the guy kind of shoved the American guy out of the way so that he wouldn't beat him. But I was watching that and I was like, and people were like, oh, blah 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 blah, and I was like watching the guy, but the American guy was like, they just crossed the finish line, and he I guess kind of ran into him like that. But I was thinking, if it was really like, if it really was like some kind of like tactic, then I think the other guy would have been pissed off. Like they hugged and they looked really happy. Is that really a violation? Because I don't know. Oh, and then did you hear about this today? I just saw this before I came out here. Justin Tucker, the kicker of the Ravens, is in some kind of like hot water because evidently he would go to these spas and have a massage. Then he would get buck naked and expect the girls to, like, I don't know, manipulate him and do all this kind of stuff for him. And I'm like, why would you do that? Like, I mean, and evidently it happened like back in 2012 and right after he got engaged to his wife. So it's been a while since he's done this, but evidently six massage therapists have come forward accusing him of this. I don't know if you guys saw that, but it's like the cynical part of me just wonders, why does this guy not know that you don't go to you don't go to legitimate spas and expect the happy ending? Like, what makes you think that that's going to happen? Like, I guess it happens if you're like an NFL star, but like for regular people, like you go to regular massage parlor, a massage house, you're not going to get a happy ending. You got to go to a place that specializes in happy endings. The place where you can turn over and like, oh, my towel has fallen off, and that's normal. Rushy says, I saw the story too. And that makes me wonder, like, so now we've six people come forward. What are the Ravens going to do? In some respects, I think the Ravens have kind of put themselves in a box because when Ray Rice, who was the star at the time that this all happened, got caught on video punching his then fiancee, who they got married, and so she was never upset about it, I guess. And even though he decked the hell out of her, they fired him like post haste. They fired him right away. Can they do anything less to Justin Tucker? I don't know. I can't see how they get away. I can't see how they cannot address him in that way. I could be wrong, but I was just like, goodness, what is happening with him? So the takeaway with this is that if you were at a point where you're interested in getting a massage and having a happy ending, don't do it at a legitimate massage parlor. Go find yourself a happy ending kind of joint, a rub and tug kind of place. You will save yourself all kinds of hassle. Like evidently there was a couple places he went to and they kicked him out. He just totally get out, just end the session, get out. Which they should. Like if in your legitimate house, you have to do that. Of course, it was, what, 11, 15 years ago? And he has been doing that. I thought it'd be like he was doing it last week after losing. I was like, oh, it's a long time. It's a long time ago. Oh, evidently here, evidently for some reason, there's a thing on Snopes, a fact check on Snopes about a rumor and the Snopes says, no, Barack Obama was not on the Army helicopter that crashed into the American Airlines plane. Who in the Like I've heard people talk about this. Like they're like Barack Obama is manipulating things behind the scenes. I'm like Barack Obama is behind the air crash. Oh, come on, man. We can't be that silly in this country. We can't be that dumb. I just can't believe it. I refuse to believe that we're going to be that dumb in this country. So the coffee, very nice. Really great with this cigar. I mean, it's just a lovely combination. This has been a very nice, pleasant cigar evening. That's what I saw. Some guy was out there blaming the crash on DEI programs. I was like, what? DEI? Gays and lesbians are behind the crash. I was like, we can't be. Uh, do our do 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 our people actually believe that kind of thing? Like, we can't be that stupid in this country. We can't. We just can't. We just can't. We just can't. Barack Obama and the gays are behind the crash. Oh God. So Yahoo says that there's 67 dead now from the crash. It's like, oh man, nobody survived that. I don't know how you could. Like, there's just knowing what happens. I mean, flying around and having. I just can't see anyone survive. That's just no way. No way you could survive that. Yeah, it's nice outside. It feels nice today. So I mentioned that I was thinking about this bonsai stand thing, right? So I'm thinking I need to get more wood. But I've got this firewood. So I was thinking, how can I mill this wood down? But I don't really have the right tools for that. Like, you need like a big bandsaw, and I only have a little teeny tiny bandsaw. But I do have a chainsaw, and I was like, let me try to chainsaw these logs lengthwise and get a plank out of it. And I was doing that over the weekend, and I came up with this. This is an oak log that I cut out with the chainsaw. It was really, really rough, and then I kind of had to plane it down. So it was like double the thickness of this, and then I planed it all down to. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know what I'm doing. I got to figure that out, but that's what I got to figure out. Tony says that chainsaw sawmill that you want is only like. Yeah, I had to take this log. The log itself is probably about that big. I had to screw it down to this plank, clamp the plank down to this stand, and then I'm like chainsawing across. Now the problem is that the thickness of the log, like it's only a pruning chainsaw, so the chainsaw chain, the bar is only about this long, and like the widest point of the log was just actually it didn't fit. I actually had to slice off part of it to get it to go to pass through the thickest part of it, but I was able to get that. There was actually a big, like, grizzly 17-inch chainsaw. I mean, bandsaw for sale today on Facebook Marketplace. Really, it's like $1,500 saw. The guy was asking 500. I was like, that's not gonna make it. I was like, I should call him. I was like, I can't afford that. It's already gone. I checked this before I came online tonight. I was like, oh, it's already gone. That was a great deal. That was a really good deal. Somebody got really lucky out there. Where's that chainsaw saw? Is that at Harbor Freight? I think Harbor Freight has this deal going on for their ITC members that you get a pretty good discount this weekend. I think that if you have a friend that has an ITC membership, you can just use their phone number when you check out. Just be like, hey, this is my phone number. Because I don't have the ITC program. I'm just a regular member there. It's like Tony says, Northern Tool maybe. Oh, no, I can't be buying. I cannot buy more. I'm not buying any tools. I'm not buying any more tools. Not buying. Actually, I find this one guy. He was like, this one guy online. He was like, hey man, you interested in buying my drill? He has got this Festool drill, 18 volt. And I was like, huh? He's like, I'm selling it for $110. $110. That's a hell of a good deal. It's a $200 drill. I said, you don't want to. I said, why don't you just return it if you don't want it? Like it's within 30 days, you get full refund. He said, oh no, because I bought it because I wanted the batteries. And then I looked it up and I was like, with the drill with 2 batteries and the charger, it's like $270. And I was like, if you were to buy just the batteries and the charger by itself, it's like $325. So it's like, wow, this is $270. I don't need a drill. I've got plenty of drills, so it'd be ridiculous to buy it, but so still very nice. A little bit stronger at this point because we're getting closer to the end, but man, performance. This is, the consistency and the burn and draw has been excellent. Like it's been, I think, like while qualitatively the flavors and the body is still the same, 8.5 or 8.75 and 8.5. I think the only way to describe the burn draw and consistency is excellent. I'm going to give those scores now 9, 9. So how's everyone's cigars doing? I know George is on to his next cigar. Yeah, that coffee is really good. Really good. Everything tonight, very good. Like this coffee, right? This coffee, for me, I think my cost on this coffee is like $8.50. But if I was to buy this today, it's probably close to $20 now because of the new differential with pricing. For me, I've always kind of been very philosophical about price increases on the C market of coffee because, a lot of people in my sector of the business, especially in a lot of the people in my business, they're always talking about, oh, the cost of coffee is too low. The farmers need to be paid more. But now that the prices are skyrocketing, ostensibly, I imagine that farmers will be paid more, although that's not confirmed. Everyone's still bitching. It's like, you always wanted to have higher prices now that they are. But, higher prices in my world are always with the caveat that we want to pay the farmers more, but only if they're going to deliver more, which I think is always a problematic thing because, like, in order for like these small farmers who don't really have a lot of means to produce coffee at a higher level requires them to do a lot more effort, a lot more time, a lot more work. When a lot of them are just trying to feed their families tomorrow rather than trying to figure out how to do things for 2 months from now because it takes that much longer to make the coffee. So a lot of people in a lot of different parts of the world, the growers are very small holders. They grow the coffee cherries and then they sell them to the middlemen, what in Mexico they call coyotes. And these coyotes go to the farms, they go into the mountains with a big truck and they buy the cherries raw. They buy them, they give them a money on the spot, cash on the spot at a low price. And these farmers are able to sell their coffee and buy their kids food. Then we have these buyers that I know, and they'll go to these farmers and they'll be like, yeah, we want you to, this coffee's, let's say like an 82 quality coffee, right? And they're like, we'll pay you another 25 cents a pound, but we want your coffee, but we'll only pay that if it's 85 points. So here's this farmer who like doesn't necessarily have the means. He sees this thing where, okay, if I can get 85, I'll get 25 cents more. But it's going to take me 2 months to produce that. But if I don't hit that quality marker, they'll pay just their normal price. And it's like, how do you make that work? And the reality is that you can't. It doesn't work. Beef farmers can't afford to do that. They don't have the capital. They don't have the resources. They don't have the wherewithal to do that. Meanwhile, the guys in my sector of the business are all like, oh, we're trying to take care of the farmers. No, you're not. Like right now, I'm in the middle of this argument with the association I used to be in, with the people in this association I used to be part of, where, I used to do the judging thing, right? And so when you go to the world championships, they're supposed to have the best judges in the world. And they make sure that the people that are judging these competitions have the best credentials. They're the most trained. They're the best of the best, because it's the world championships. But they want all of these judges to pay their own way. And they do nothing to offset their costs. Like imagine if you had the NFL and you have the Super Bowl and you have your officials and you're like, hey, you want a referee at the Super Bowl, then you pay your own way. That just doesn't happen. That's just like FIFA, World Cup. You tell the referees, umpires, whatever they call them, pay your own way. No, they're not going to do that. And the thing that always gets me is that these guys that run the organization, they're always fighting me on this. So I tell them, compensate your judges. And at the end of the day, I don't necessarily mean pay them all this money, but at least do something to offset their costs. They've got to pay their own airfare, they got to pay their transportation, they pay their own meals, they pay their own accommodations. Do something to offset their costs. Maybe negotiate better rates with the hotel for them so that they don't pay the full rate. I know many judges who want to go to these world championships, and they're scrambling to like get Airbnbs, a whole bunch of them to stay in this one house so they can save money. And it's like, why don't you guys do? And the level of like arrogance from these people that just refuse. Like the one girl that runs the one of the divisions, she was like, well, how are you going to pay for it? It's like, that's not my fucking problem to pay for it. It's your problem to solve. If you want me to solve it, you can hire me at my day rate and I'll figure it out. She's like, how are we going to pay for it? I just told her, well, look, I'll help you figure it out. You just tell me about what are your costs, what are your revenue streams, and all these details that I know they're not going to want to give. They'll never give that out. But I know she's saying that because she wants to try to like make me look bad. And I'm like, there's nothing to make me look bad. I'm just telling you to compensate your judges. Compensate your judges, compensate the people that you expect to work for free at all levels, because you're flying these guys from Ireland to do your AV work all over the world. So you obviously have the money to do it. We're almost there. Now, a lot of the judges that are involved with this, they're all like, they're some of them have chimed into the discussion like, we really enjoy the work that we do, and we find it very rewarding. I'm like, no one's saying anything about rewarding. It's very rewarding. I'm just advocating for you to get some compensation out of it. And none of them none of them have come out to say that they're against compensation. They want to do it for free. They're trying to the ones that have joined in the conversation, they're trying to walk a very thin line because they know that retribution will come to them if they cross the line. But since they kicked me out last year, I can say whatever I want and they can't do anything to me. So I'm like, well, this is what needs to be said. All right, so we're pretty much at the end. My fingers are burning. Put that down. Great cigar. That was fantastic. All right, so like I said, burn and draw, I'm going to say is excellent. Consistency, excellent. Now the overall score, man, we got a lot of 8.75s, a lot of 8.5s. I'm going to say we're at 8.75 for that. So that gives us a total score of 86.75, which if we look at our rankings for the year, we only have like, what, 5 cigars so far this year? So Blue Mountain Catch a Fire, 86.75, which makes it the highest ranked cigar this year so far. So 86.75. The next highest cigar was the one from a couple weeks ago, the Roma Craft Maestranza Castillo de Murcia at 86. And then we have a tie for the Tatuaje 20th Anniversary Grand Mirabelle and last week's Privado Colada Duarte 6x50 at 85 points. And then rounding that up was sadly the Arsenio Robusto from Aganorsa 2 weeks ago that I was really, really hoping for a really, really high turnout for, but unfortunately it only came, it did kind of peter out and we ended up with 80.5 points on that cigar. So, but not bad, not bad. Thank you very much there, Mom, for this. I really appreciate that cigar. That was delicious, delicious. All right. I guess that's pretty much it for this week. Back again next Thursday with more of the coffee and cigars. Don't forget, February 16th, Sunday, 2 p.m., Capital Cigar. We're going to have our get-together, so come down if you can or fly up if you want. We'd love to see you. We hang out. Some of the guys are staying at some hotels in Bethesda, so if you can make it, we'd love to have you. So, that Mom says, hey, yeah, good. All right, so we're back again next week. So hope you have a wonderful week out there, and yeah, see you next time.